everybody so much for taking time to participate in MNI University today. MNI University is free learning online hosted by MNI. MNI is America's largest and oldest compiler of industrial manufacturing data. We connect buyers and sellers in the industrial world through Industry Select, which is our industrial database for sales, marketing, recruiting, and research, and also through IndustryNet, which is the industrial marketplace for procurement and sourcing and quoting and purchasing. So that's just a little bit about MNI. Myself, my name is Katie. I'm brand ambassador here. I've been with MNI for 12 years, and I love working in the manufacturing industry. I'm known as the manufacturing hype girl, and I just love connecting buyers and sellers. So Cherise is a friend of mine, and she's going to be talking today about trade shows. So I'm just going to turn this over to Cherise and let her introduce herself and her company and get into the presentation. Thank you, Cherise.
Great. Thank you very much. I'll get to that here on slide 2, a little bit more about who I am. But for right now, what we're going to focus on today is going to be trade shows. And over the years, you always hear people saying the whole slogan, I just hate trade shows. All you do is you just show up and throw up. And if you really are doing a trade show, I mean, what kind of investment you're making. It is not a couple of $100s. It's thousands of dollars that companies invest for just a simple 10 by 10 little booth. You can imagine what some of those small islands are. You're into major dollars. But you don't have to be a big island in order to generate those leads. You can certainly be a 10 by 10 booth and get just as much business as they are. And we're going to work on that and show today what are all the elements that are available to you at a trade show in order to make this profitable for you. Okay. So who am I, and am I really qualified to talk about this? Yeah, I am. I have done marketing and PR for over 30 years, and that's, I hate using that number at this point, but I've done over 130 trade shows, and to tell you the truth, I just got done doing 2 trade shows, and I have another one coming up in 2 weeks. Now, in terms of attendance, we'll talk a little bit about attendance and what that means and some of the potential differences. But overall, I'm in marketing. I've been in marketing for a long time. Anything from trade shows to writing to social media to expansion, bringing companies in even from overseas to the United States. I have just pretty much done it all at this point. And the one thing you just got to do is just make sure you stay up on the technologies of what's coming out. And that could always be another topic of investigation here is AI and marketing. And is it really all that at this point? But for today, we're going to talk about making money and making sure that the investment that you're making and the company's making in trade shows, is that really working? So right now, the big question is, are you showing up to trade shows and are you really just throwing up there, and just doing the basics, or are you doing something more? So what is a trade show? What is a trade show booth? The way that you need to take a look at a trade show booth is that it is your meeting place or your gathering place. It is not for you to be there on a 24/7 basis. Okay. A trade show booth is a place where you could say you could meet us there at booth number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could say, Mr. Customer, make sure you stop by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are other things that are going to happen even with the press at booth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's why it's like your booth is a meeting place. It is not just you stand there and you wait for somebody to pass by. Okay. And we're going to go into as to what do you do before the show, so then you could start to maximize that investment and the things that you can do there. So if you've done this particular trade show before, okay, then you already have a list of people that have stopped by your booth. If this is the first time that you're doing a show, not a problem again. You have lists of people who have potentially gone to shows before that you can certainly go to, okay? So what you want to do about 2 to 3 weeks, I usually depends on the size of the list. If it's around, let's say between 100 and 200 of contacts that you have on the list, you start generally about 2 weeks before. If you have more than that, then you do 3 weeks before. So what are you doing? Well, there's a couple of different things that you want to do. First of all, you want to make sure that if you have like an SDR, which is a inside sales rep per se, if you have somebody who can do some calling, have them on the phone. And what do you want that person to do? You want that person to notify them and say, "Hey, we're going to be at the show." So that's giving you some exposure. The second thing you do is say, "Hey, if you're going to be at the show, stop by our booth. Can we set up a time for you to be there?" Or the third thing you do is you say, "Yeah, I understand, you may or may not be there. So, because of your schedule. So if you would like, let's set up a one-on-one now and schedule that just in case if you can't go to the show." So there are 3 opportunities in just that one phone call that you're making to that list. So you're either, you're exposing your company and saying, "This is what we're doing," or you're setting an appointment either at the booth or like on a Zoom call if you can't be there. Okay. The next thing that you also can do that people do not do is right there. If you got a trade show coming up, put that in your email signature. So every time that you have an email going out, you have that information automatically going out and you're getting some of that marketing, free marketing to customers, to prospects. You have some of that free marketing going on. It is not just for your own email, it's for everybody in the company. So you guys as marketers, you need to create that little verbiage, put that logo in there, ask them to add it to their signature so then that gets done. Okay. All right. So that's one of the first things. Now, what else do you do? Well, your show staff, okay, will give you a link to a portal. If it's a big enough show, you will have what is called a portal, which is like an inside of their website where then they ask you to upload your company description, upload your brochures, upload, your description of your company. Do that. Always, always, always do that. But there are always little, and I call them little nuggets of information that gets put into there. So your exhibitor page, you get to put like press releases in there. You get to do future feature products. What do you want to sell? It doesn't have to be something new. People get caught up in thinking that I have to have a new product out there. No, just put your product out there. People don't know what you're offering. So to them, it's new. So if you think about it that way, you're good to go. Attendees to the show, they do searches prior to going because what they're doing more and more nowadays is that they're just not walking up and down the aisles because like some of these shows are just so huge. For instance, I'm doing Modex in 2 weeks. There's literally hall A, B, and C that have all exhibitors. There's thousands of exhibitors now at Modex. It's outrageous. There's going to be like around 30,000 attendees, right? So when you're going to have something that's going to be that big and people are going to go and search to go, what is it that everybody wants to know? Because as in the olden days of trade shows, everybody used to go and that doesn't happen. And now instead they send representatives, okay, to the show. It may be like 1 person to 3 people only instead of the entourage of 20. So they will find out from others within the company, what do you need? What are we looking at? I'll go there. I'll go through the demo. I'll get some information for you. Okay. So they're pre-planning and they're going to the portal and they're scheduling out who they want to go see. So if you got some good information in there, you're going to be able to show up You're going to come up on the search engine and on the portal, and all of that's going to be helping you as well. Okay. They also give you the ability to send out some emails. It could be to your own list, it could be a little bit to their list. But if they're giving you that option of mailing out, you want to take advantage of that. And here's why. Those emails are going to go through to those particular inboxes. Okay. If you do it on your own, and if they're cold, so many people now have security on their emails, you're going to have a very hard time getting through, which is one of the reasons why I do like their email system, because I know it's going to end up in their e-box. Okay. And then use a template, or use social media, and you'll be surprised how many people will end up looking at that. Now here's another little tidbit. You want to make sure, like, if you're hashtagging in LinkedIn, or if you're adding on X, you want to make sure to include the press. Okay. So not just like at, whoever, but you also want to include, at, and then whatever the press, your top 5 or top 10 publications are, include them in on all your posts. So for instance, prior to the show, I usually do around 2 or 3 posts per week for about a month prior to the show. And then when I get to the show and I'm just setting up, I'm taking pictures of what it looks like before the storm, right? Before everybody comes. And I take those pictures and I start posting. And people actually use it so they know where they're going to be going. So they start seeing some things that are familiar, okay? Because some of these places might have 2 or 3 shows going on at the same time. So take pictures of take pictures of your trade show booth, all set up before it gets ugly and everybody's stuff is all around it. Take pictures of that and you post it. And then when you have presentations going on, if you've got some AV equipment there and you're doing a presentation, take pictures of people at the booth. It shows activity. So if you have all those things going on, people will start following you. People will start taking a look at your pictures and spreading the word, because the more visibility that you're showing that you have, the better off you are. Okay. What else do we do? You think I'm done with pre-show? We still got a couple more things to go. Do you have customers going to the show? Do you have prospects going to the show? Did you know that you could actually put them both together while at the show? And I've done it a couple different ways. I have done it where they all show up to the booth, and while they are at the booth, the customer is there with the prospect as you are going through your presentation. And a lot of times, well, I should say all the time, your customer is going to chime in and say, yeah, we do that, but this is how we do it. Okay. And they're going to like that. The customer, the prospect is going to like that, because, they're going to know, because now you're talking customer to customer, right? You're talking about real life experience, about what it is that they've gone through. And now they know how it's going to be handled, when they become a customer. So having them both doing a presentation works. The other way I've also done it is that you can invite them both out for breakfast. You stay back, let the 2 of them go to breakfast, let the 2 of them talk. Or if it's a larger group, let the group of them talk together. Okay. You arrange this with your customer prior. Sometimes I should say most times they're just happy to do it. I usually try to treat them to something. I'll take them for a nice dinner. Or if sales is really grateful because they were able to close some business, they might give them a little discount, or they might give them a little extra services, a little extra education, whatever it is that that the sales rep wants to do. That's great too. But from a marketing perspective, I usually just make sure that I roll out the red carpet for them, in thanking them for everything that they've done and helped out. Okay. That is one fast way to close business. What else can you do? You got to do press release. Okay. Now there's lots of different services out there. I would suggest not using, some of the really big ones, only because you're just not going to be spending enough for them to really give you some undivided attention. So in actuality, I use a small service called Send to Press, and they do a very nice job. I have it very specific, very targeted, so then the company knows where exactly to send the press releases. And believe it or not, even prior to the show, clients are always getting some sort of business from it. Okay. And sometimes the show might have a press list. Okay. So large ones like Modex will have a press list. So sometimes you have to ask for it. Whatever the case may be, sometimes when you get to the show, there'll maybe be a big board there, or a lot of times they're also going to have the publication there for people to take. Those are all opportunities for you to make sure that you get your familiarity with who the editors are, if they're there. We're going to talk about that in a moment, but you want to make sure that you know all that information prior to the show, so then you can track some of these people down. Okay. If for some reason you don't have a list, just go find your top 10, your top 20, create a little bit of a list, send the press release one-on-one to these editors, okay, and letting them know that you're going to be at the show and this is what you're going to be doing. Okay. And again, you do want to send the press release about 30 days or more out. Why is that? Is because publications are always a month or two in advance. And so you want to try to get your news into them as soon as possible, so then you show up in their publication. Okay. The key is make it newsworthy. Now, if you look at me going like, I don't have any new news. This is our product and this is just our product. Well, that's fine. There's always something that you can take that's going to be specific that maybe you don't normally market. Maybe there's a specific feature that you have that you don't normally market. Make that the focal point, and then you put the rest of the product around it. There's all different ways to be able to take and mold information to make it, newsworthy. Okay. Once you send it to them, one extra step that you can do is you can call the editors for a one-on-one. And you could either just say, hey, I was hoping that if you're going to be at the show, I'd like to set up some time. I'm going to have my product expert there. Yes, it's probably a salesperson, or maybe the VP of sales or the manager of sales. That's just as good. But you just say, I'm going to be having somebody there that's an expert in the product. I'd like to be able to set up a one-on-one. If they say, again, I'm not going to be there, then you say, no problem. Can we meet either before or right after the show? And we can tell you a little bit more in detail about what it is that we released for the show. Most of the times they're going to be interested. And if they say no, it's only because that publication is really not in that particular space. And they'll say, yeah, that's not going to be really good, necessarily for us. Us meaning that they're talking about their readership. Okay. Which is fine. Don't take offense to it. Not everything's going to be a fit. And that audience and readership probably isn't going to be a fit for you anyway. So you want to move on and make sure that you're zoning in and finding out which one are the publications that are going to be best for you. Okay. So that's everything pre-show. Make sure you think about as I click on this next one here. If any questions you have, throw that in the chat and then we'll get to those shortly. Okay, well, if that's all the work that I do prior to the show, man, what is it I'm going to have left to do at the booth? Well, there's going to be plenty. Okay. At the show, you're going to have your booth or something there to be able to promote the name of your company. What is going to be your booth theme? Okay. You could have it match or not match what your company does. Okay. It really doesn't kind of, some of the booth theme kind of matters, but it doesn't matter. You can, when you're doing, like I've done campaigns, like with 007, And I've done a James Bond theme, and so I'll have like maybe some uh, martini glasses there, just to kind of like decorate the booth a little bit. And then this was like the craziest one I did. When I did that with the 007, one of the giveaways was nothing more than copies. And it was a copy of the recipe that James Bond uses for that he likes for his martinis. Okay, remember, shaken, not stirred. And you know, I went through recipes on that, and I just made them into little squares. So I had 4 of them on one sheet, and I gave those away, and that was the biggest giveaway. You don't always have to have and spend hundreds of dollars on, pencils or pens or pads of paper or whatever, that might be it. The most I usually do is 2 things, and that's the reason why you'll see I've got pictures of whiskey here. I use a bottle of actually empty whiskey, because nobody likes you to bring it in, and nobody likes you to ship it through USPS or anything else right now. So I just bring an empty bottle of whiskey, and I kind of know what the color is. And so, like for instance, I just did Angel's Envy for the last trade show, and what I'll do is just put in some tea, and usually chamomile tea is a perfect color match for Angel's Envy. And I put it up there on a box of empty cigars, nice, cigar box. I've got a couple of those. I stack those up. And then I just have a little crystal jar for people to put their cards in. And I have paper on the side if they want to fill that out and put that in. That just gives me some extra names and so forth. But that's usually the giveaway. And all I could say is, if you choose to do the whiskey one, make sure you know a little bit about whiskey, because you would be surprised to know how many people are connoisseurs of whiskey. So that's basically what my giveaway is a bottle of whiskey and some nice candy. I mean, I just bought, because they were super cheap. I just bought like 3 boxes of Kit Kats. People like Kit Kats. They'd be surprised. Or Ghirardelli chocolates. Not a problem. That's basically what I give away. And I never have a problem. And I always draw them in when you just show a bottle of whiskey with chamomile tea in it. So then you also want to say, like, how are you showing your product? Okay. Do you have stuff to be able to show? Or is your stuff like, like like a lot of what my clients are, which is, we have to show a video in order to show the product, right? Because it's going on something or it's doing something. So I would refrain from doing anything live, because that never works. So just make a nice video. Get some AV equipment. If your company can't afford to do the AV equipment, because it could be anywhere from like $12 to $2,000, fine. use your laptop. Not a problem. People will stop by to see that too. Okay. There's always something around it. And then equipment to the show. People love to show, like to touch stuff. So if you have stuff that they can touch or see, be it if it's software on your laptop, be it if it's, little gadgets, these people in our industry are all very visual. So that's why it's like, I always like to have stuff that could be seen, touched, and they can do all those kind of things. Okay. What else can I do at the booth? Well, for each 10 by 10 space, I recommend no more than 2. If you really, really think you need 3, because you're going to have a huge crowd, then do 3. Why do I say that? Because too many people, it becomes very intimidating for that one person who is stopping by, and you got 5 people in the booth. I know that even as myself walking through, I'll avoid that because it's just too overwhelming. You don't want 5 people jumping down your throat. So 2 people, 3 at max, and that should be it. And whoever does go to the booth, they got to work. Okay. If there's anything that I never allow is, a salesperson comes and says, okay, I'll see you later. And they take off and they're wandering around. No, mm-mm, mm-mm. You don't allow that. And usually you talk to the salespeople, you'll let them know what you're going to be doing prior to the show. So then everybody's on board and you give them assignments. So some of the assignments that I'll do is I'll say, okay, this salesperson, your job, because I'm not going to be able to go do it. I need you to go around. Here's a list of our competitors. Go see what they're doing. Okay. Go to their presentations. If there's also an opportunity, you could ask another sales rep and say, here's a list of some partners that I think this would be good for us. Make sure you go and have that other sales rep walk around, during their break. You can give them like an hour here, hour there. Have them go walk around and say, yeah, these could be potential partners for us. Okay. Because that's also another great way to be able to expand your business. Okay. So those are two reasons and two things. The third one is something that you want to hold for yourself is to make sure that you go around to the booths where the press is at. Okay. Make sure that you find where the editor is. Maybe the editor's strolling around. Maybe the editor is going to be popping back into their booth. You find out from the salesperson, who I'm sure is always going to be there, and find out like, okay, when's your editor going to be back? So then you can always have some hand copies for you, hand your press release. This is what we're doing. Is this something that your publication could be of interest of? What can we do? Can we do an article together? Can we do a one-on-one together? Can we have, a quote? Can I supply you pictures? There's all sorts of things that you can do with that. I think I'll be going into that in a little bit more. Oops, sorry about that. If you're working on my apologies, let me get that off here. If working on their computer, they can before the show, but if there's nobody around because there's classes, then yeah, they can be checking their emails or such, but really try to make it a strict policy that they don't go out of the booth and that they're not distracted by something else, checking emails, especially when people are walking up and down the aisles. Because again, nobody's going to stop by if they see that you're preoccupied and busy, right? So you don't want to be in their face, but you want to just be walking around, and that's what I do all the time. I'm walking not just in the booth, but I'm walking around the booth, outside the booth as well, bringing people in. Okay. All right. Be prepared what to say in the sales pitch. It is crazy to say, but it's very true. Everybody ends up saying something a little bit different. It's okay to do that if everybody is saying the same message. However, you again will be surprised how different everybody's message can and will be if it's not all brought together as one. Okay. And it could be confusing to people stopping by the booth. Okay. So you want to make sure that everybody's pitch is as similar as possible. Okay. Also find out and have everybody ready to go with what are the 3 qualifying questions. Okay. Sometimes, I went as far down with asking that down to the qualifying questions of, do you have a budget? Okay. So, it may be like, what's going on? It could be something as easy as what's going on in your business right now, which is why obviously you stopped here for a reason. So what's going on in your business that you think you need our product? And that's a great opening statement, because instead of you right away out there going, here's my presentation, let me tell you about what we do, you're first finding out what is it that they need. So then you can go and tailor a little bit of what you need to say to what they're saying. Yes, you still want to give your basic message, and then you can go off and then you can say, here's how I think we can help you out. And then you want to confirm that. Is this right? Is this what you're looking for? Okay. So also, what also is very helpful is a lead retrieval system. Yeah, they can be expensive. They can run anywhere from like $500. Now, do you need every bell and whistle that's on there? Absolutely not. You only need the bare minimum so it captures the information, gets their email, gets their phone number, test that out prior to going to the show, and make sure that it's capturing the basics, okay? The other thing that I always do at a show is I always have a pad of paper and a pencil to take notes. I know it sounds rudimentary, but you know what happens is that I actually last week I had somebody come by and say, I already came by last week and you took notes on it. I saw you making notes and take notes on that. So I went back and go, oh yeah, we talked about these things. They loved it because they know that you took the time to actually take notes about who they are and what their needs are. Okay. When you get the information and you from the 3 questions, yep. Oh, okay. I already said that. Take notes. Take notes. Obviously, it must be good if I'm saying it twice. And the one thing that people say, I hear this all the time from salespeople. Oh my God, I would never forget this. This is a hot lead. This is a hot lead. And I was like, okay, okay. I take the notes anyway. The next day I'm like, oh, do you remember what so and so said? They came by. Remember, it was a really hot lead. 99% of the time, they will not remember which lead it was. Is always the answer I get back. So listen to nobody, take notes. Even if you're listening in on a conversation, take notes. All right. What else at the booth? Yes, we're still in the booth. Brochures. Don't go crazy and printing a ton of them. People nowadays do not want to take them because it's too much to carry back. So, they'll be like, great. And they take it because you're telling them to take it. And then before they leave, they're dumping it in the garbage can. So, one of the things I always do is I say, you could take it if you want, but I'm more than happy to send it to you. What's the benefit of that? Well, easy. I now have a great reason to follow up with them, right? I have a reason to email them. I have a reason to follow up and call. Okay. So, one of the other things too that's also very important is keep your booth design open. Meaning simply when you have if you have a booth and don't put the table right smack in front where then you have a barrier between you and the person stopping in the booth. I always 100% of the time take the table, put it to the side because now I have that openness so then people come into the booth and that's exactly what I want them to do. Come into my space so then we can have that one-on-one talk. Okay. And then here's just some little notes of like where I like to put things, in order to keep it open. Okay. All right. Guest presenter. This is another great thing while you are at the show. This is usually months before, and usually it's no joke. It's eight to 10 months prior to the show. The show is always looking for presenters. Okay. They usually say, here's what's going to be the next theme for it. And here's what we need for you to submit. If you want to try to submit a presentation, try to do it. Okay. It's not a selling pitch. It's supposed to be educational. Yes, you are definitely still talking about your product and you're talking about what it's doing and how it's doing it and the technology behind it, be it if it is software or not, everything is still, technology based. That's what you want to talk about and the need. Okay, so for instance, I just got done doing the trade show as you know, and so I took the 3 top questions that were most important to people and they were coming in wanting to learn about, and I submitted that to a publication and I said, here are the things that people were asking for. Is any of this of interest to you? And within what I think it was less than an hour today, came back and said, yep, can you write a byline article on this particular question? What am I going to say? No? Of course I am. Okay. So there's opportunities and I know that's an after the show, but That's just saying what a presenter or information that you get from a booth can do. So what do so your big thing is, what do you have to teach them? Okay, what is it that you want to teach them? Submit it, always make it into a nice, PowerPoint. It could also then be used later on as a webinar. Webinars doesn't always have to be live. You can use that presentation that you get there, promote it and say, here is a webinar. It's just a link. You can go learn about it. We just gave this presentation at the, and show and tell the show. I always get people, coming to it, viewing it, and they like it because they could do it on their own time. Okay, so you want to also post. That's again some of the posts that you can make if you're doing a presentation. Post that to social media. Post it on X. Post it on LinkedIn. Do an event invitation on LinkedIn. All that kind of stuff you can then do prior, during, and then after the show. Partners, as I was just talking about a couple slides ago, one of the things that you want to do is you want to make use of that show because there's a lot of vendors there. And I bet you there's got to be at least one company, if not a handful of companies there that you can partner with. And partner to do what? Partner on leads. You can do joint marketing campaigns with, or because they have sales reps going into similar type companies, share that type of, have the two reps work together. Hey rep, you're in this area, so is this person. Put them two together, have them start communicating, and you'd be surprised at how much business comes out of, not having to go direct to the market, but just by sharing with your partners. Okay. When is the best time to meet them? The last day of the show. Why? Because, most of the business has been done. A lot of people have already come through, and that's usually kind of like vendors talking with vendors now. And that's worked consistently with every show that I've been to. Meet the press. We talked a little bit about that. Invite them to your booth. Invite them, for at a, like, at one of like the food tables. They always have some sort of food tables around. And invite the two of them so they could sit down and talk with each other at the show. But make sure you're prepared with what to say, and you have to prepare your expert. Okay, what you need to prepare your expert on is the following. Don't stray from the message. Don't stray from what we've talked about that we want to be written up on. Because when that happens, the person who is talking to the editor will walk away going like, oh, that was the best time ever. Oh, it was great. And guess what happens? You really said nothing. And the editor is not going to really say anything because you went off point. So the methodology is you make your 3 points up front, you talk about your 3 points, you close with your 3 points. It's like a sales call, right? And really talking with editors is a sales call. You're trying to sell your company to get some ink. That's what you're doing. Case studies are really great. Have them there. White papers are really great. Have them there. Pick up the publication like I mentioned. Get to know their editorial calendar. So that when you see the editor there, you could say, in October, you have this coming up. We really would like to participate in it. Now, of course, the salesperson is going to be all over you too, and you could say, yeah, but you really want that ink. And you want to use that salesperson to help you get that ink. Okay, where am I? There we go. Get the most of your daily leads. Okay, this is harder, but it works. Okay, you want to make sure you download your leads every day. If you have a CRM system, upload that to your CRM at the end of every day. You want to, before you go to the show, make sure you have, your follow-up emails ready to go. What I usually do is I send them a letter the same day or at latest the next morning. So then you have that first touch so they remember you. Okay. And you can put something in there. You could personalize it a little bit for those hot ones. Personalize it. You were interested in blah, blah, blah because of. And that's where the business, what was going on in their business. Okay. When you do that, the likelihood of appointment setting gets greater. Now, I'll do it a couple different ways. I always do the first one that same day. And then if I don't get an answer, then I'll send it out like 3 days later, and then 3 days later. And then I send another 2 week, the first week, and then the second week after the show. So I generally do 5 touches to that one contact that stopped by the booth. The likelihood then of getting an appointment set up goes up exponentially. And you want to make sure you want to maximize that. You don't want to wait till after the show, and then sales gets to follow up after the show. Sometimes they do it right away, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're waiting a week. I don't allow that either. So what I do is I do that email, I get as many as I possibly can set up for them. And then from there, I give the sales rep a deadline and say, your calling efforts need to be done by this date. If you give any sales rep the open whatever, then you're going to get nothing out of it. Okay. Some of them, like I said, are good about it. Some of them are not so good about it. They get caught up following up on the ones that they think are most important. But sometimes you don't know. I mean, I've had many, many, many times those that were quiet about it when they stop by the booth, but they end up being really good ones, and could be that ones that close the business. Okay. So can you send more than one? Like I said, yeah, you want to send, more than 2. I usually send about 5. Okay. And then it's up to, then if the rep follows up, great. If you've got an SDR or an inside sales rep, I usually take the list at that point after the deadline, and I give it to inside sales, or I give it to an SDR for continuous follow-up. And then usually more appointments do get made after the show. Phew. Okay. So that was just the show. Now we're packed up. We're heading back home. You're exhausted. Everybody has laryngitis. So what do you do now after the show? Work your list. Okay. Make sure you are the marketers. So you get the list, you downloaded everything. Make sure, either that night or as soon as the show is over, you write all your notes into the spreadsheet, and re-upload it, or you put it directly into your CRM, whatever's going to be easiest or best for you. Make sure that all the notes are in there. And then I usually have a meeting with the sales team. Like I said, setting that expectation. I let them know what the deadline is before I take the list away from them and give it to inside sales or SDR. This is just to help ensure execution. Okay. Get your press in order, from either the one-on-ones that you had, or for follow-up for people that you had met that said, yeah, send me something. Whatever your to-do is, make sure that you get that done right away after the show, because out of sight, out of mind. No different with editors. Okay. And then now you have an email list, a wonderful list that you've started, you've created, and you've made some probably even more contacts, and you found out about more publications. Make yourself a nice little press list. Now you have somebody to go to every time you have something that's maybe a new feature or a new version, or whatever the case may be. You have information now that you can share with the press. Okay. That's pretty much it. This is just a little bit about who ROI Marketing is. If you guys need of any help, I'm very happy to help you out. And as you can tell by the way I run a trade show, everything about what we do here at ROI Marketing is about generating business. It's about generating, leads, qualifying them, with the internal staff, and making sure that business is had from everything that you invest in. Okay. So